Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time watching, I would love for you to hit the subscribe button, follow me on Instagram, go watch my last videos. But today I am doing a full glam complexion video. So just complexion, I didn't do eyes or anything like that. I just focused on full coverage, longevity, sculpting, anything that I would do if, let's say I was getting married today, or if I had a big event and I really needed my foundation to last, cover everything, and really look good from, you know, all angles. This isn't a routine I do day to day. Again, my easy everyday makeup tutorial was a couple videos ago. This is more something I would pair with a bolder eye or a smoky eye. But today I just wanted to focus on just the complexion, so I just threw on a little mascara and a lip. But if you're interested in seeing what I would do, steps that you may not know of, or what I would do to have a really flawless, long-lasting, full coverage face, then just keep watching. Okay, so first step, no matter what time of day you're doing your makeup, is to wash your face. I already did that. I used my Youth to the People superfood cleanser, just a nice gel refreshing cleanser. I typically use that one in the morning. Next step is to exfoliate if your face wash didn't have exfoliator in it. I'm not going to do that right now because I did just put self tanner on, but typically I would use either something like this or an exfoliating face wash. If I'm using a gel face wash or something basic, then I'll use these are the Dr. Dennis Gross peel pads. You want to make sure that your skin is completely clean and that all of any flakiness that you might have from dryness, or you know, if you are like breaking out and you'll sometimes get a little texture on the breakout, you want to make sure that you buff that off with either a chemical exfoliator or a physical exfoliator. So next step is going to be your skincare routine. So whether you do serum, moisturizer, SPF, whether you just do moisturizer, SPF, I'm going to just do moisturizer and SPF for right now. Let me get my hair out of the way. Also, yes, I did just get my hair done. I am still social distancing. I am a hairdresser. My coworkers are hairdressers. So shout out to Jess at Aria Salon for throwing in my foils for me. I definitely needed it. I was looking a little brunette there. Okay, I'm gonna moisturize first. So today I'm just gonna use a very basic moisturizer. I actually am gonna use the Fresh Lotus Youth Preserve Face Cream. I like this one because the texture is very thin, it's not greasy, it kind of just absorbs and stays there, and it doesn't disturb the makeup that I'm putting over top of it. So I do like this one sometimes during the day to moisturize. Okay, and you can see I did already put my brows on. I did my brows because this is just a face video and I didn't want to look completely crazy with no makeup on at first. So next I'm going to do a little bit of eye cream. I specifically am going to use the OLEHENRIKSEN Banana Bright Eye Cream. I talked about this in my Sephora sales recommendations video. I specifically like this one on days where I'm doing makeup because it preps concealer really, really well. It's not like a greasy eye cream, so it does do a good job at making sure my concealer doesn't slide. And you can see it has kind of like this yellow hue, which I like because I feel like it gives me like an instant brightness under my eye. And I just like the way that the eye cream just gives you like a glow under the eye, and I feel like it already helps me look more awake. So next I'm gonna do SPF. If you're doing your makeup during the day, always SPF no matter what. If it's at night, I mean, you don't have to, but definitely always during the day. So the one I'm gonna use is actually this Carez one. This is just SPF 30. And I like the texture of this one. It's not greasy, it doesn't slide. It's just like a nice, like typical SPF texture. And it smells like the beach. Living through this sunscreen right now because I can't be at the beach, but you can see how when I rubbed that on, there wasn't like that white residue that you're trying to rub through at typical sunscreens. I feel like I find that a lot with sunscreens, but with this one I don't get that. Okay, so next up is primer. Primer is the step that I want to talk a little bit more about, just because I feel like people think they need primer for the wrong reason. The #1 question I get at Sephora makeup related wise is people who don't like how their foundation is performing. So they say, well, my foundation is kind of sliding around, or it looks cakey, or you know, whatever. So usually I try to get more in depth with their foundation routine, because primer, if your foundation doesn't work on its own, chances are it's really just not a good foundation for you. You shouldn't need the primer to make the foundation perform how it's supposed to. There are some primers out there that, yes, do smooth a little bit, but half the time when I have a person who's looking for a primer, they're really looking for a new foundation, and half the time they end up foregoing the primer and switching up something else in their routine, whether it's for the setting spray, the foundation, what they're applying it with, and then they come back weeks later and they're like, you were totally right, that was the issue. So I will use a primer just for sake of this video, for the sake of the fact that most people do like to use one. The one that I have really been liking lately is this one from Smashbox. It's the Mindful 5 Nourishing Face Primer Serum. This is one of their newer ones. I have really been liking this. This just kind of creates like that glass skin canvas to put your makeup over top of. It does provide a little tiny bit of grip, nothing crazy, but I feel like this helps even out the texture. Anything around here, I just feel like my foundation lays really well when I use this underneath it. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this one for today, and it's just like a little dropper. And it does smell like a green tea shot. Not green tea, specifically a green tea shot, like from Clinton Street Pub, if we're being even more specific. It has very strong scent, so if you're sensitive to fragrance, I don't know that I would go for it, but I do really like the performance of the primer. My skin isn't super sensitive to fragrance, but I know some people's is. So because this is a more perfected complexion video, I'm doing very full coverage. I'm doing like, this is the most, like if I were getting married today, these would be the steps I would do. Full coverage, longevity. I don't want to see a single breakout. I don't want to see anything. So because of that, I am actually going to conceal my like little breakouts. So to do that, I'm going to take my NARS Soft Matte Concealer. This is in the color Custard Medium 1. This is a really nice spot concealing concealer. I don't really use these much under my eyes. What I do use them for is carving out brows, if and when I do cover up brows, which is pretty much never anymore. But I do like to use this to spot conceal. Sometimes I'll just take my finger, but I am gonna take just like a little tiny brush and just cover that guy. Putting foundation over it, so I'm not really gonna worry about buffing out the edges like too much. So it's gonna look crazy because I didn't blend it out. I could blend it out, but that's just wasted time because when you put the foundation over it, you're not gonna see that anyway. I just wanted to cover those spots. So again, because this is full coverage, I'm going to use one of my more full coverage foundations. And this is the foundation I will go to if I need the fullest coverage and the most longevity while still being able to work with it to make it look like skin and not cakey or anything like that. And that is Fenty Beauty, the original matte one. This is my lighter shade, this is 210. I usually use 260 when I'm tan. I did just like self tan, but this is still not as tan as I would need to be to use that foundation. So I'm gonna hope that this shade is okay. And with this foundation specifically, I do like to use it with a beauty blender. I feel like that's how you get the most even lay of it on your skin. It looks the most skin-like. It doesn't have too matte of a finish when you use it with a beauty blender. It kind of still keeps a little bit of that skin-like glow. So I'm just gonna put about 2 pumps on the back of my hand. Pray that this is the right shade for me right now. And the important thing to know about the Fenty foundation, if you do ever get it, is that it is very, it oxidizes like crazy. So the color it is when you put it on, it'll get about a shade and a half darker, I want to say. And then I'll really just take it like down my neck just a little bit. Okay, and I find that this foundation does layer pretty nicely if you work quickly. I didn't put it all the way up under my eyes because I'm just gonna put concealer there anyway, and you don't wanna add yet another layer of product there that could get cakey and crease under the eyes. So I really try to stay away from my eyes and kind of like around the nose area with my foundation. If you feel the need to keep building up more coverage, which one layer with this really is like pretty full coverage. This is the most coverage I've had on in like, probably like a year. Just take a setting spray, any setting spray that like will add mobility back into the product. Not like an Urban Decay All Nighter, but maybe like a MAC Fix Plus, or Morphe Star, wow, Ellie. The Morphe and Jeffree Star setting spray, or just like the regular Morphe setting spray. Something that will just rehydrate the face so that you can continue going in layers. Just be careful with which foundation you're using. Make sure it's a foundation that does layer nicely. I find that this one, the Fenty one, does, again, if you work quickly. So next up, I really don't usually do this day to day. Again, I haven't done this in a long time, but this is for the sake of doing a full complexion video. So I am gonna do a little bit of a cream contour today, and I am gonna do a little bit of like a cream like glow kind of situation. So what I'm gonna do for this step is I'm gonna do the contour first. So I'm gonna take my this is my Fenty Beauty Matchstick in the shade Mocha. This is a really nice neutral coolish kind of contour shade, so I do like this. What I like to do with this is I'm actually just gonna take a small brush. This is the number 56 brush from Sephora. This was just like back when they used to do the rouge gifts, it was like the free rouge, but it is the number 56 like head. So you can buy it. It's just obviously like a longer handle. And I like to just take this right on here. I don't always like to go right in with it unless I'm doing a more sheer foundation, because if this messes up the foundation at all, it won't be full coverage anymore. You don't have to worry about it so much if you're doing like a tinted moisturizer or something like that, because if it takes a little bit off, it's a more sheer product underneath anyway. But because this foundation is so full coverage, I don't like to go right in with this. And I'll kind of just take a little bit off the back of my hand just so I make sure I'm not going in too crazy. And I'll just kind of create like that little guide for where I'm going to be bronzing later. And I like to kind of bring this like up. I didn't even really realize that I did that. You know, sometimes you don't really realize you do something until you have to talk about it out loud. Same thing on this side. And I don't know if you can notice like how I'm putting it. I'm not swirling. I'm kind of just like patting it in, because again, I don't want to disturb that foundation that's underneath. And then I'll do a little bit up in the corners of my forehead here, just because I have like a very square forehead, so I kind of like to soften that a little bit. And then I'll kind of go like right there. I feel like right at the end of the eye. It just creates like a little bit more of like an upturned look. Like you see how that adds that like shadow right there. Sometimes I'll go down the side of the nose. And when you're doing this, make sure you kind of like allow yourself to step back in the mirror and really like, don't do this all up close, you know? I prefer to do my contouring like a little bit further away from the mirror if I can, to really see how my facial features look. Okay, and then last step is I'll kind of just take it like right under the jaw right here and really just try to chisel out this area. And it just kind of like, see how this looks more round and this side looks a little bit more chiseled. So see how round that was before? And like when I take powder bronzer, I'll kind of like do more of that. Again, do I do this every day? No. That's why when you see me, I usually have like a more rounded whatever, because I don't care. But today, this video is all about caring, right? So next I'm gonna add the little bit of like highlight steps. So I'm gonna take the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter. It's kind of like a tinted moisturizer, but not really. It has a little bit of coverage, but not much. And it's just a lot of glow. It's like if a tinted moisturizer and a liquid highlighter had a baby, you would get this, but I really only use it either under foundation as a primer, on top like I'm about to, or mixed in with my foundation. So it just comes with like this little doe foot, and I'll just kind of do this. And that's really the only places I do it. And then I'll just take my beauty blender and I'll just take like the clean part and kind of just just creates this like glossiness. Next is concealer. So I want to be really perfected today, so I'm gonna go with my Too Faced Born This Way. I'm gonna use it in my other color because that one's my tan color. I had like a backup of my lighter color that I just didn't open yet, but I'm gonna do it for the video because this is what I would use. So this is the lighter shade. This is light beige. And then my tan shade is natural beige. This one's just a little bit more olivey. So just like this big doe foot like this. And what I'll do with that is I'll just start to put it here. My nose, on the chin, and just like one little line in the center of the forehead. And then back in with the beauty blender. I like to do my under eye area last. I never really knew why, but I finally found a way to describe it. I feel like if you let this sit for just a little bit, it kind of halfway dries down, and then I feel like it has more coverage. I don't know why, but I saw someone else talk about that. I think it was like Jackie Aina. I watched like her concealer video, and she lets her concealer under her eyes sit for like a good 30 seconds. And that's what made me realize why I do that. I like never knew I did it intentionally. And then I was like, oh, I don't know. Okay, I'm done with center of the nose. Okay, now with my concealer, I really started just very lightly blending in my concealer. So I'll start at the bottom and I just kind of blend the edges first. Make sure I get like all up in that nose. And then I kind of just bring the concealer up, kind of meeting with that like cream contour that I had put right there. I do use a concealer that is pretty light. I know it looks kind of crazy compared to everything else. The lighting also makes it look a little bit lighter than it really is, but once I powder, it does mesh everything together a little bit more. So now on a typical day, I would just bring my concealer all up around my eye, but on a more perfected day, I would leave that contouring there that I did, and I would just take an eye primer, like a tinted eye primer. And when I go to either do my eyeshadow, usually my eyeshadow is already done if it's again like a flawless day. But if I am for whatever reason doing my my eyeshadow afterwards, then I'll do like a tinted eye primer, and then I won't do foundation on top. Then what I did on this side with the concealer is I kind of like brought it up, like I brought the concealer like up to meet with that contour that I put on my nose. Right, and this concealer is really full coverage, so I don't need to do like more than that or a second layer with another one or anything. But immediately I do want to set. I am going to use my Huda powder because this is what I use realistically. So this is the Huda powder, and then I use it in the shade Pound Cake when I want it to stay like nice and bright under there. So I just really make sure all these creases are out. And what I will do is I'll set first. So I'll take just like a small brush, dip in, swirl it around in the cap, and I will like just place a little bit of powder right under the eye area, just the immediate eye area. And then I'll take this and just kind of dust it on the other areas I want set. I kind of just work from the inner part of my face outward. So see how I didn't set there yet, it still has that glow. Forehead. And I'm looking in the monitor and like everything is very, brush hair there. Everything is very smooth to this point. So these are, like I said, all of my foolproof go-to products that I know won't fail me. That's why I picked the products that I did, because I know they all work well together. And I'm not getting any dragging, I'm not getting any patchiness. Everything looks really smooth. Okay, and then this is where I'll go in with a bigger brush. And this is the Jeffree Star Morphe JS2 fluffy brush that came in his set. Same thing, dip it in the powder, swirl it around in the cap, tap it off. And then I'll just set that cheek area lightly. And then you want to set like everything you did down here with that cream bronzer, cream contour. I'm going to take a little bit of that Laura Mercier glow powder. So this is the glow version, but I'll just take a tiny bit. Like I literally only took what was in the cap, which is barely nothing. And then I'll just go back over. So this is going to set everything while still letting you keep that glow that's there. So it has a very like almost highlighty finish to it. So you want to be careful using this one, maybe if you have like texture or anything. But see how it still, it keeps the glow of the products that you put underneath it. So next I'm going to go in and actually like powder contour and bronze. And for this I will use the Benefit Cheek Leaders palette. This looks like this, has a little brush. I don't use that, but I just will lose it if I don't keep it there. The HUDA contour bronzer, this is a really good contour shade. You can see it's more cool toned. And then the HUDA Caramel, this one's more warm toned. 2 blushes and then a highlight. I really only use this palette for these two and the highlight, but the problem is that these are so dark on me that I can really only use these when I'm tan, and this highlight is so light on me that I can only use it when I'm pale. So like, I never really reach for this palette for highlight and bronzer at the same time, but today I am going to use it for the bronzer colors. So I'm going to take my e.l.f. Flawless Face Brush. I did just clean out my brushes, so you're welcome. And I'm going to dip it in a little bit of the HUDA bronzer. And tap. Should look like that. And I kind of just start to go over that cream bronzer that we had placed down. Very carefully. I'm like very lightly, because it does get like really dark. Like you can see it gets like pretty dark if you're not careful. Go over that little bronzer I had put there. Redefine my jaw a little bit with the powder. And make sure you always get like back here as well. But you can see how it's just like a nice neutral contour. It's not too red or too brown or anything like that. And then I will switch to a smaller like angled brush. Again, another e.l.f. brush. I really like e.l.f.'s brushes, and they're like $3 to $6 per brush. So if you can get your hands on an e.l.f. brush, if you need them, if you don't need them, they're cheap anyway, so. And then I dip back in the HUDA bronzer with that. And then I will focus in a little bit more on my nose. And I really like to bring it like right up to, I like to kind of connect it in with my brow. I feel like it looks a little bit more realistic when I do that. And if it gets a little bit messy, it's okay, because we're going to clean it up with powder after. So like it looks really dark and kind of messy, but it's okay because we're gonna clean So we're looking nice and sculpted. You just want to be very careful with the hula because it can get pretty dark and pretty like sharp if you're not careful. Okay, so next step, so that's contour. So then I like to bronze. So for bronzer, I'm gonna use that Hula caramel shade that's in there, and I just take a big, dense, fluffy brush for this. You don't want to use anything that's too like these are more movable. You can tell that's not as dense as this is. I like to use something more dense for this because then this can cause more patchiness with bronzers like that are that dark. This is more for setting powder to just lightly disperse. If you lightly disperse a dark bronzer, you're gonna look like a patchy hot mess. So dense brush into the Hula Caramel. Make sure you really tap that off because it gets real dark. Sometimes I'll just like go on the back of my hand a little bit with it. And then I'll just kind of start to like gently bronze up the face a little. Ooh, like see, you can tell that I didn't tap it off enough. But because this is a dense brush, you really can like buff it in once it's on. So if it gets a little dark, it's okay. Perimeter of the face. See how that just adds like a lot of warmth to it. The contour adds the shape and definition and depth, but the bronzer is what adds your warmth and your color and your like tan. And I'll usually like, again, if I'm being really perfectionist, I'll put like a body oil on with some tint to it so that everything is like evened out on the body. But I do like to take a little bronzer and like define my collarbones a little bit. So next I'm going to clean this up. So I'm going to take that Laura Mercier, just regular Laura Mercier powder, and do not do this with the glow one. And you want to get like a little bit of powder in the cap there. And then I go back in with my beauty blender. You can use a different one if you want. Like sometimes I'll use the Real Techniques one for like the flat edge to do this, but I'm lazy, so I'm just gonna do the original beauty blender. And you just want to dip in, tap like a little bit off on my hand like that, and you just want to kind of start to sculpt out that jawline there, or cheekbone, wow. And I kind of just pull it in right towards the corner of my mouth. And then you want to do the same thing on the other side. And I also do this just down the very center of the nose. I go ahead and do it under the eyes. And I like to bring it like in, up onto my nose. That's why I was saying if you get a little messy with the bronzer, don't worry, because you end up cleaning it up with the, when you bake the under eyes anyway. And then you can kind of like sharpen up that edge with the concealer there. You're gonna look crazy, but trust the process. Again, this is for ultra perfected, like wedding day, prom, I don't know, anything that you have the time to look extra and you wanna be extra. So, okay, so you're gonna let that bake for just while we do this next part. I don't like to bake for too long because then it starts looking really like casty looking. And in pictures, you might notice it look a little crazy. So next I'm gonna do blush. I'm actually going to use the, oh God. I'm gonna use this little Flower Beauty powder blush in the color Peach Primrose, PB2. I don't know if that's the color, but I think Peach Primrose is the color. I love this blush. I'm not like a picky person when it comes to my blushes. I just like this one because it's a nice peachy, bronzy, kind of like good for when I have that tan color blush. And then I'm gonna take my Morphe blush brush and I'm just gonna swirl in there, tap it off. And I like to just hit the tops of the cheeks with this. just blew on nothing. Wow. And I do like to hit like my chin a little bit with it. I don't know why, but I feel like when I don't, the tone of my chin gets way too bright looking. So I like to just put a little bit on my chin just to kind of like match the rest of my body. I don't know. Then honestly, I wipe off the bake right after that. I don't like to let it bake for too much longer. So I kind of just take a clean, like that brush that we used earlier. Buff off that. And I think it's just because this is on camera right now, but like, I know here and around my mouth and everything, it looks really light here, but in person, this is all the same color like as my body. If it ever feels like it's too light right there, you can just take your bronzer brush and just kind of like go over just that like part around your mouth and stuff. You really just want this to be sharp, but like in person, that's all the same color as my body right now, so I'm not like crazy worried. I just wanted to show you guys what to do with it. Felt a little too bright. Now that this is all baked, everything is powdered. My whole entire face is powdered and baked. And my last step that I have to do is highlight. So I am gonna spray my face before I highlight, and I am gonna use the Morphe and JEFFREE Star Continuous Setting Mist. This is brand, I haven't even used this yet, so this is the brand new one. So, oh, that smells like, that smells like a very, very fruity, that smells like the last drink I had before quarantine. Okay, so, I'm gonna stop talking for this part, but you just wanna get that like nice little like wet glow back. Issues with being blonde again as you get foundation in your hair. If you're blonde, be careful with how far into your hairline you contour. So I just sprayed, now I'm gonna highlight. I'm not gonna use the highlight that's in here because like I said, this is a little too light for me right now. I'm actually gonna use this palette. This just for the sake that it just came out again, this is the Anastasia Nicole Geraro highlight palette. This is the best highlight palette to ever exist, ever. Okay, mine is so beat up, like this is gonna be like, yeah, it doesn't look that bad on camera, but it's bad. I usually like to mix these two or use just 143. This is the first one I hit pan on, as you can tell. That's like my favorite shade, but I might mix these two just because I'm going for a very golden kind of highlight look. But they're pretty intense, so you don't need to wet your brush or anything like that. And I'm gonna use my Sephora Pro Precision Blush Brush number 73. They don't actually sell this one anymore, so I'm gonna try to find one that, this is just the one that I use all the time. So I gotta find a highlight brush that I can start using instead of this one. But I'm just gonna use the 143, tap it off. Woo. Yeah. She's intense. This is a intense highlight. Plus when you spray your face first, it just makes it like even more intense. And then I just like to take a little bit down the bridge of my nose on the Cupid's bow. I forgot I had lip balm on, so that just stuck to like my entire lip. Chin a little. Just like any high points of the face, just be careful if you're using a highlight that's intense or this highlighter, because as you can tell, it is pretty intense. So while I have this out, before I forget, because if I don't do it now, I will forget, I'm gonna take a tiny brush, same color, pop it right in the corner of the eyes. This just helps really open the eyes up. I'm trying to give you more of like a close-up here. You can see that the under eyes are baked and set in. There's no creasing. Everything looks really smooth. It looks nice and smooth and matte here, but I have like a little bit of a glow hitting the sides. the highlight and contour here is all hitting like for the most part in the right place. My contour or my jawline is a little bit more defined than it normally would be. And yeah, the last step I typically would do is hit it with a little bit of all-nighter. I'm not going anywhere right now, so I'm not gonna do that. Plus I just sprayed the Jeffree Star one, but the all-nighter really does help like lock everything in. And then I'm just gonna throw on a little bit of lip and some mascara. So this is how the finished complexion came out. Again, this was just a full glam focus on the face. These are steps I would do if I was going out on the town and I really needed my makeup, face makeup that is, to last a long time, to look sculpted, perfected, everything like that. So these are the steps I would do. This is not anything I would do day to day again, but if you're having trouble with your complexion routine, maybe you can take at least a couple steps from this, implement them, and try to figure out how you could have either your foundation lay a little smoother, your contour look a little sharper, your under eye not crease as much. Any small thing that you feel like you might having an issue with, I hope you learned like a little something from this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I did take a poll in my Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, my handle is here. I would love for you to follow me. I do want to do more polls there to see what kind of videos you guys are interested in. And I do let you know there when I post a new video. My link will always be in my bio on my Instagram as well. But I took a poll and you guys said that you liked a little bit more tutorial style videos, so I want to start doing some more of those. Do want to get a fragrance video up soon as well. Just still working through that a little bit, but any other suggestions for videos, as always, leave them down below. Any questions for me, suggestions, you know the drill, but hit the subscribe button, like this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.